it's Louise at Spiral Bright Insight. I want to do a very quick video just to talk about some insight that has come through, specifically relating to the meeting of Ceres and Saturn together in the chart. So this is going to take place in the late evening of the 13th of May for us in the UK. And that is when both Ceres and Saturn are at 29 degrees 4 minutes of Pisces. So if I just show you the chart very quickly, you can see it's at 22:41 on the 13th. This is set for Bedford near me in the UK. And this is just to show that Ceres and Saturn are together at 29 degrees 4 minutes. They are traveling together at 28 degrees at this time, but they will join in their exact conjunction in the early at 29 degrees and 4 minutes. And then Ceres will move ahead and enter Neptune before Saturn does. Ceres will move ahead and enter Aries on the 17th of May, which is a few days before Saturn moves on the 24th or 25th of May, depending where you are in the world. So what is really, really beautiful about this meeting, this kind of conjunction, is the symbolism and the story that is coming up for me as I tune into it and think about it. Because the 29 degree, we've been talking about this extensively. This is a point in the chart which is getting constantly activated through transiting. Mercury's been there 3 times, Venus has been there 3 times, the Sun has passed over, Neptune has passed over, the North Node has passed over in the opposite direction, and now Saturn is here as alongside Ceres. So the final degree of Pisces is the final degree of the entire zodiac. This is an ending point. This is an energy of completion, of letting go, of surrendering. You know, we've talked about what 29 degrees of Pisces represents, but just to remind us, it is at this point that we have to let go of everything. We are about to be born again, to create something new, to step into a whole new version. 0 degrees of Aries is a reset. It's the 0 point. It is the point of new beginnings. But before we get there, we have to cross the threshold. So this is very much a transition. And it is at 29 degrees, the final degrees of the zodiac, that we just surrender. We let go of everything that we have clung to, that we have been attached to, that we have maybe believed, all the stories, the ideas, and our attachment to our current form and expression, and we let go because we need to let go to make the space for the new to come in. So this point is so karmic. It is the end of a cycle. And with Saturn moving over this point, Saturn is having to really let go of forms, of structures, and of a set way of being so that he can start to build something new from scratch, from the ground up, when he moves across that threshold and into 0 degrees of Aries. Now, Saturn is going to come back to this point, you know, because he will move in retrograde and move back into Pisces later in the year. So this is just a taster. So we're going to have this activation 3 times again, or a further 2 times again. But for now, what makes it really special is that he is sharing the space briefly with Ceres. Now, Ceres is the goddess of the harvest, of rebirth, of fertility. She represents the Earth Mother and is very linked to elder and to crone energy, sort of the archetype of that female wisdom, of the mother or the woman who has lived through so much, who has gained huge amounts of experience and is ready and in a position to share it in a very nurturing, tender, loving way. She reminds us how important it is to come back to a state of simplicity and purity, and to connect with the earth, with Gaia, with nature, in order to come home to ourselves. She also understands the relevance of life and death and the cycles that form part of our human experience, and the fact that we do have to surrender, we do have to let go. Now, Ceres, as the mother of Persephone, is also very linked to grief and to loss, because she had to let go of her daughter who was taken into the underworld, and she guards the transition point or the gateway between two worlds, waiting for her daughter to come back to her. So she understands what it's like to straddle two worlds, which is effectively what she is about to do alongside Saturn, as they both move from the very ending into the very beginning. With Saturn in Pisces, we've talked about Saturn in Pisces. He is not strengthened in this sign. He is the god of time, of authority, the patriarch, structure, rules, regulations, boundaries. And he is in Pisces, having to really let go of that, sort of release all these boundaries, all these rules, all these laws are being dissolved at this final point of Pisces. But he also represents maturity and mastery, and the long, hard slog, the deep level, the extensive work that we have all put in to get to where we are, where Saturn is sitting at this time. So there is a recognition here that we have had to put in a lot of work, that it has taken a huge amount of effort, dedication, commitment, perseverance. There's been times when we've thought, oh my goodness, is it all worth it? And yet Saturn has finally got to this point, and he is standing hand in hand with Ceres. So Saturn as the father figure, Ceres as the mother figure, and at this final point of having to release and let go, I'm getting such a strong story coming through of these two archetypes representing mother and father, representing the parents, the energies that have guided us, to get to where we are. And as they move into this final point and stand together, as everything starts to dissolve and crumble and disappear around them, there is this nod to the fact that we are having to step wherever we're going next, as we step into this new world, this new vision. Saturn and Neptune both, in the very early degrees of Aries. It feels like we are letting go of the apron strings. We will always be guided, we will always be supported, and we're going to start a new cycle where we are much more autonomous, where we are much more sovereign, where we are in control of our own destiny and our own story. And, as this happens, and I'm sure for many of us, who have watched children, had children, let them grow and had to let go and watch them sort of make their own way and make their own mistakes, there is a loss, there is a sense of loss, there is a sense of grief. It is hard to let go. And that is what is coming through so strongly to me as Saturn and Ceres sort of meet at this final point. But at the same time as letting go and this grief and this loss and this kind of reluctance and resistance, there is also a huge sense of hope and optimism for the future and what is possible through the letting go. You let your child fly the nest. It feels like we are flying the nest at this time. It feels like we are moving into the next stage of our evolution. We are having this, with Saturn in Pisces, this is about spiritual mastery, and we are taking that step, sort of letting go of the apron strings, sort of leaping, leaving the nest in order to create something new and something really beautiful. And there is huge optimism, there is huge excitement, there is huge faith and anticipation for what is to come, dreams for the future, the huge potential on what lies in front and ahead of us. And it is about acknowledging that grief is part of this transition process. Whenever there is change, whenever we are having to let go of something, it is okay to grieve. It is okay to feel that loss and to sit with that emotion, to allow it to come up. But in Pisces, at this very final degree, we are going to feel more emotion, we are going to feel more compassionate, we are going to feel more connected more unified. Pisces is about unity consciousness and its highest expression, but it's also recognizing that it is a very emotional time. And of course, just a day after the full moon in Scorpio, which is going to be a hugely emotional full moon, because Scorpio is really digging up all those deeply held and buried emotions that we may have kept hidden or suppressed beneath the surface. You know, this again feels like the next stage as we're working with all these emotions. Ceres, the represent the gatekeeper, you know, there at times of transition, there to guide us, to hold our hands, share her wisdom, to remind us to connect to Earth, because Mother Earth is rooting for us, excuse the pun. She wants us to grow up, to step into this next version of ourselves. This is what Ascension is all about. And this just feels such a poignant time with these two archetypes standing together, side by side, you know, holding space for what is to come. And of course, Ceres is going to move faster than Saturn, so she will pass into the 0 degrees of Aries in front of Saturn, but she will then retrograde back through Aries later in the year. Ceres also represents the harvest and the bounty and the nourishment that we need to carry on with our journey. She is there to make sure that we have the sustenance and the strength that we need, that she, you know, she is that soothing presence as we do make this huge step over this threshold, which is something that we are doing time and time again over during this pivot, this watershed year that we are in, 2025. And of course, in the galactic chart, in the fixed star connections, we have Shyut in Pegasus, which, you know, is about being able to rise up and out of suffering, to let go of feeling like a victim, to release the chains that have kept us bound, that have kept us in, you know, all these rules and regulations in one form and one way of being. Pegasus really helps us to align with a higher vision, a broader view. He helps to show us, or he's guiding us to the new horizons, to what lies beyond, and we can't always see where we're going, but he gives us the faith and the strength to trust in the process. So very beautiful, magical energy, you know, the winged horse, and, you know, adding that beautiful multi-dimensional aspect and energy into this conjunction. So I hope you have enjoyed that little story of my insight and that came through. And yeah, just in terms of energy, you know, there is a lot coming up. This full moon is very, very powerful. So be mindful of that, you know, trust, you know, honor anything that is coming up for you at this time. You know, it might feel really heavy, it might feel overwhelming, and, you know, but trust that if these emotions are flowing, that they are flowing because they want to be expressed. And we have spent lifetimes of denying our emotions, of shutting down, of repressing, of suppressing, and not feeling free enough or able or powerful enough to express how we feel. And this full moon is really asking us to reverse that program and to start to really connect with what these emotions are trying to tell us and what they are trying to teach us. Because so often, and I'm being shown this time and time again, something might happen, there may be a trigger that triggers an emotion within, and we attach to the event, the situation, the person, the experience, you know, and we think it's about that, but actually it very rarely is. And it's often the case that our higher self will create scenarios that it knows is going to trigger this response and this reaction from us, in order so that we can experience that emotion, so that we can release that emotion and let it flow and sit with it and feel it and recognize it. So it's not always about the event or the person, you know, they are just a trigger, they are just a mirror, so that we can unlock what might be hidden within. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you as always for watching. You can find out about my work, spiralbright.co.uk. If you're particularly drawn to Ceres, for example, Ceres as a dwarf planet, I do offer deep dive readings where we can drill into one specific energy, one planet, one asteroid, one dwarf planet in your chart. So, you know, if you want something that is really bespoke and really targeted and focused, then that might be of interest to you. But I also offer extensive quantum soul guidance readings. I offer cosmic current transit reports. I work with parents to help them understand their starseed children. You know, they're highly sensitive children. You know, there are lots of different things available. So please do go over, look at my website and sign up for my mailing list if you're not already on there. And I'm going to leave it there, sending lots of love and gratitude as always.